Welcome to Wargoove. In this awesome episode, we're going to be covering some games from Round 1 of World Tournament number 8. Just to put the bracket on the stream real quick, and I will remember to take it off the screen this time, I promise. We're going to be seeing Searing Blight versus Zested for a chance to go up against in next round, two-time world champions Zeronics. Sneaky versus Wall will not happen because the Sneaky Dragon got a DQ from their opponent, and Mvakm will be fighting Disobeyed, and Mastro will be fighting Mr. Cat. Let's check out these awesome matches, starting with Searing Blight versus Disobeyed. I'm just going to grab the room code, and make sure I did not leave the bracket up this time, and here we go. In the top, in pink, we have Wolfar by Searing Blight. Searing Blight is an incredible player who does not show up to every tournament. They did, however, come in second, losing only to Shu in a previous World Tournament. In the bottom, in yellow, playing Greenfinger, we have Zested. Greenfinger is a commander known for summoning 5 vines onto the battlefield, and Zested is a player known for incredible skill in ranked PvP, often near the top of the ladder. These two are probably the most even match we'll see in round 1, both players being incredibly skilled and incredibly good at most aspects of the game. We see early on they're just kind of capturing villages, but the important feature of this map, Open Season, is these rifles in the corner of the map. If you can see here in the bottom right and in the top left, it won't let me go to the top left. I'll show you in just a second. There we go, in the top left you can see a pink rifle. The rifles are trapped in by these gates, and freeing the gates is an incredible part of the strategy on this map, because if you break the gate down, your rifle can act as an amazing anti-infantry unit. We see Zested going in on this village here, doing some big damage. And that sword, is that going to be used to break down this gate? We'll see. Zested also builds a knight. Now, it looks like Searing Blight is doing some big damage to the villages and sends their knight backwards to free this rifle. They could have sent the knight forward to attack, but they wanted to get that rifle out as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, we have Zested. It looks like they're doing the same thing, both players favoring a very similar opening, but when the differences start showing, we'll see the differences between the players. Zested very aggressive, choosing to kill the soldier, but their own soldier can't really do anything else, the pink village staying captured for Searing Blight. Searing Blight is doing something very similar, but here's the big change. They set up a very clever sword crit to eliminate this village, giving themselves an advantage against their opponent. Searing takes first lead in this match, and has 3 knights on the field, where Zested only has 2. We see Greenfinger just casually taking down this village, though they're a little bit behind their opponent, and they're trying to bring the knights out here to maybe catch up. We see a balloon and 2 pikes. It looks like Zested is going for a slower game, but they still capture the village again in the face of their opponent. Searing Blight is undeterred, just smashing and smashing that sword, determined to hold this village. And we see a dragon come out from Searing Blight. That's a very big pick, and it'll mean the rest of their builds this turn will be a little bit weaker. We'll see if that dragon maybe is worth it, as 3 knights line up against Zested's Greenfinger. There it is, Greenfinger's Groove. Those vines do not do any damage, but they're excellent blockade units, and will make it difficult for these knights to attack. With the pikes in the back protecting them, it can be a little bit tricky for the knights to go in here. Using the sword crit to soften the village, Wolfar then sacrifices his sword in a groove to do some big damage to this knight and this vine. We then see the knights go in, and a knight crit come in. It looks like Wolfar is trying to trade the sword and maybe their own knight to capture this village and have a powerful forward attack. The fact that Searing was able to see such a play and attack into Greenfinger's vines, rendering them useless, means that Searing Blight will have a bit of an advantage into Zested, and made a very, very dominating play here. Zested will have to recover, but Zested chooses not to attack the knights, instead just going for this village, trying to farm up Groove. A Witch Hex costs 300 gold, but it kills 2 units, and Zested tries to reinforce a defensive position. Ultimately, I would have liked to have seen more knights get taken, but if Zested can hold a defensive position and prevent Searing from attacking, it could be worth it. Greenfinger still going in for Searing Blight. getting a very, very powerful, dragon strike on that knight. The dragon, though, could be vulnerable now. There are witches afoot, but Searing Blight doesn't care. Attacking into the pikes with knights, just going forward with the dogs. All of Searing's units are running forward, ignoring Greenfinger's defenses. If we take a quick look at the map here, we can see that Searing Blight does have a bit of a gold lead at the end of their turn. Their knights are suffering for that attack. We see Greenfinger dealing big damage to all these units and punishing them for going in so deep. Sure enough, the dragon gets hit by a witch, and Zested has a very nice position, defending their stronghold, trying to keep it safe from this Wolfar push. It looks like Zested has a pretty good position at the end of their turn, even if they're a little bit behind on economy. After all, those knights and dragons are pretty expensive. We see Searing Blight still taking villages, not really afraid of their lost units. They're determined just to get the economy in this game, and boy do they have a lot of economy, with 1,452 gold. They're retreating a little bit, but they're not afraid to bring in their own pikes and build a big army to just try to keep Zested pinned here. Now Zested is trying to break out and recapture territory. We see them doing some good damage in the center of the map. It's a little bit risky, though, to be fighting with a lot of pikes against a rifle, and Zested's own rifle is only at 6 health. It was never properly healed. Will Zested be able to get that rifle into a good position? I don't know about this pike position. It looks like it's right in range of the rifle there. Ooh, sure enough, the pike takes big damage. The mage goes down. The dragon goes in again. Searing Blight is just charging forward into the enemy. Look at that beautiful sword crit right there. And the mage goes in then to decapture the village while creating a perfect defensive formation that will keep Searing Blight safe. Both players have groove, but with Searing Blight having both units and the board and economy, it looks like Searing is dominating in this game. We see Zested use the balloon to set up a really beautiful dog crit, and then follow it up with a knight crit to kill the rifle. That'll show that rifle for hurting that pike. Really big damage. There's no way to rebuild the rifle. It is gone forever. And we'll see if Greenfinger can make use of this attack. A shame that doggo didn't go down. It forces the 4-sword to stand somewhere maybe it would have rather not stand, and prevents Greenfinger from putting a vine there. We'll see if that becomes a problem later on. All in all, it's important to take a look at the counterattack, though. It seems like there is a little bit of a counterattack here, though Searing is forced to use a lot of attacks to get rid of the vines. But Wargoove can outright kill a unit and damage another, meaning that Wolfar is able to keep even on units during the counterattack. Ultimately, I'd say the Greenfinger grooves have not been very successful. Searing Blight keeps finding a way to punch through, and is just spamming knights into their opponent. Beautiful mage strike on that dragon, but can Zested take villages back? They're behind on villages and don't seem to be winning this fight. We see Zested continue to attack, doing big damage, actually using a rifle to finish off a knight. But there are knights on the left side of the map, and Zested does not have an answer for them. I'm not sure about that witch X. Is that witch safe there? Sure enough, the knights go in on the left side taking villages, and oh, the witch goes down. It was not safe there. A little bit of a misplay by Zested leads to big gains for Searing Blight. Searing also takes out the rifle, takes out that pike. Unfortunately, Zested's attack is just completely routed. Zested's units are scattered across the map, and Searing has the economy in this game. Zested trying to recover, damaging knight after knight, just damaging units everywhere. Look at all the damage coming out here. Just throwing that vine in, doing some more damage with Greenfinger. We see attacks coming in everywhere and units falling for Searing Blight. But ultimately, nothing Zested is doing is recovering them villages or taking a big enough lead that Searing can't catch up. For every unit Zested kills, Searing Blight is right back at them, killing even more units. Even throwing knights into pikes, because Searing has such an overwhelming advantage here. We see both knights getting healed completely to full. Searing has so much money, and it's just a war of the knights right now, with both players desperately trying to hang on. If you take a look at the clock, Zested is short on time, with only 14 minutes left. That has got to be impacting some of their decision-making. The knights are just running rampant across the map, attacking everything. It looks like Searing is just trying to suffocate their opponent. Really beautiful dog suicide strike. Knight goes in on Wolfar. Oh, so much damage. This could be it. And we see the Wargoove clearing the way for a Knight strike. I think this is lethal. I think this is it. Sure enough, with time pressure, Zested just couldn't hold on and was defeated by Searing Blight. Amazing game. If you looked at the clocks, Zested might have been trying to time out Searing Blight, which is why they made their moves quickly. They had a full 5-minute lead on them, and the clock was ticking. But unfortunately, they moved out of position, and Searing took the lethal. Well played, but let's see how they do in Game 2. On the right side of the map, we have Zested playing Wolfar. Don't get confused, because it was Searing playing Wolfar last time. And on the left side of the map, we have Searing Blight in pink playing Valder. You know, I should recommend to the tournament refs that everyone just play the same color, that way you can always tell who they are. This map, Quaint, is known for having a massive mountain range and forest area in the center of the map, which is very difficult to cross. It's also very difficult to build units on the side of the map where your commander is, but much easier to build units where your commander is not, leading to some interesting combinations of builds. We see, this is really weird, we see Zested moving their commander into the corner of the map. That's a little bit out of the way, and most players will hesitate to put their commander there. Meanwhile, Searing Blight seems to be plowing forward, sending their commander straight to the center, trying to get some early villages as quickly as possible. But Zested quickly rotates their commander, bringing it more center for an active position on this village. Searing Blight heals their commander to about the same as Zested's, and we see some early village steals occurring with very aggressive swords taking villages away from their opponent. Beautiful sword crit to decap that village, following up with a mage. But a knight is coming in, and that'll be able to threaten that mage. Both players are building pikes, but if you'll notice, Searing Blight has a balloon to carry their pikes home, whereas Zested does not. That pike is going to have a long way to walk. Beautiful dog hit on that mage, but you are playing against a Valder, and it's a little bit risky to put any unit in Valder's path. Zested gets a nice kill and continues to crit down that village, capturing it, and with Wargoove, maybe you shouldn't attack Wolfar while Wolfar has Groove. Searing Blight, sure enough, summons the dead, summoning a 100 gold soldier to attack that dog, immediately taking it out. Was it worth the strike on the mage? I'm not sure. Searing is bringing in more units and has the balloon active, ready to take their pikes into the battle. Zested is slowly getting those pikes in, and actually balloons in a sword, but the balloon is nowhere near the pikes that are trapped on these mountains. Again, I have to ask if Zested is really doing what they should be doing to get these pikes into the battle. It seems like they're still not doing anything. Meanwhile, Searing Blight has their pikes lined up right next to this balloon, and they're aggressively using sword crits and heals to do massive damage to their opponent's troops. The knight actually swings past Wolfar's base to take a village all the way in enemy territory. And sure enough, the balloon drops the pikes to a very aggressive position, completely negating that knight. Searing Blight is dominating this game. The dragon goes in and takes out a sword that's pretty much free, and Wolfar goes in to sword crit this village into oblivion. Will those pikes finally get to do something? I certainly hope so. So far, they've just kind of been sitting here. Oh, we see Valder actually get ballooned forward rather than using Groove, and the knight just comes back to pick up this village. It shows great maturity that Searing Blight, rather than just using Groove every time they get it, is willing to reposition their commander aggressively when they see the opportunity. Very good play by Searing. We see Wolfar determined to keep hold of villages, and actually ballooning their own commander back as well to defend. I'm gonna just take a look here and see that the economy of the units is pretty much even. Really good mage heal, pretty good value, and the dragon does go in. I'm gonna say that that dragon might be in a little bit of trouble. The mage can hit it, but it did take out a knight, a village. We'll see if this ends up being worth it. Yeah, sure enough. Some big damage gets dropped down in counterattack. I don't know if going for that knight was a good idea. Ooh, really beautiful sword crit. And we see Searing's own dragon making some work. Valder goes in, summoning a sword, probably for a crit on that doggo. Nope, it just goes back to take the village there. And then the balloon drops a mage to guard Valder on the mountain, trapping the dragon. Beautiful play, really beautiful play. The witch goes in to kill the balloon, but a witch is not worth more than a balloon. If the mage kills the witch, it's kind of a moot point. I have to feel like the trades Zested is making aren't really worth it from a gold standpoint, from a groove standpoint, from an economy standpoint. I just don't see the value in these attacks. Zested also is a little bit weak up top and is not able to push forward and take any more villages. Oh, we see a pike suicide into Wolfar. Could this be a lethal? Sword suicide into Wolfar. It's looking like this is a lethal. The dragon doesn't attack Wolfar, actually clears another side around Wolfar. The mage kills the dragon, but doesn't go for the witch. There's no lethal here. Why were there suicides into Wolfar? The suicides might not have done enough damage, maybe, because it did look a little iffy on the lethal. Maybe Searing was just testing it out. Well, Zested is continuing the attack, taking out a mage, but again, I have to wonder if they're doing enough damage. Ooh, hitting that dragon is definitely enough damage. The dragon goes down, the witch is still alive, and Zested actually elects to groove the mage. Not killing it, but sending it far enough away to keep it out of this fight. A positional groove is interesting, we'll see if it's justified. I kind of want to take a look at the economy, though, because Searing Blight has so much money that even though Zested won that fight, I'm not entirely sure what Searing did in that last fight, but even though Zested was able to win that fight, Searing has the map, they have the money, they can afford to lose fights, as long as they continue to dominate, and I don't see Zested getting anywhere with that push, with this golem in the way. The knights are coming in to take villages, but there aren't really anything to capture the villages back. Zested has to just capture this real safe village near their own territory and continue to struggle without really moving forward very much. The knight kills a dog, but it's only really worth it if the knight is still alive at the end of your next turn. This knight retreats to heal up. We see a lot of knights for Zested, but is it going to be enough? Golem goes in, huge damage to that knight. Valder goes in, huge damage to that knight. Mage goes in and heals everybody. And a sword goes in to recapture the village. Even that 3-sword is attacking the village. Searing being as snarky as possible, just trying to do so much damage and not let Zested recover. Searing is throwing away units to keep hold of these villages. I don't know if that's a good strategy if Zested is able to pull forward at the end of this maneuver. Searing basically sacrificed all of their army units in the north for that. Was it worth it? We'll see. Wolfar actually repositions to the north. They are standing on road in front of a dragon, which is usually the worst thing you can ever do, but I think Wolfar has enough health that they'll be able to live it if the dragon chooses to attack. We see Valder repositioning, and sure enough, the dragon attacks. That was a bit of a questionable play from Wolfar there. Units are marching forward, and Valder has groove. The knights go in, but they're just too damaged to deal with this golem. They just try to grab villages, and Wolfar is forced to use the balloon for a bit of an embarrassing retreat. Mage heal comes down, but it's not exactly an efficient heal, and Wolfar is still too low to be of much use. Zested can't even afford to build from this barracks anymore, and Zested builds another witch. Probably to contend with all these dragons. The dragon goes in. That dragon could easily die here. It's right near a mage crit, but maybe Searing will be able to cover it. Lots of units go in, just dealing damage and attacking. Oh, and sure enough, the golem comes in, standing on the mountain to cover that dragon. And then a balloon comes over here to cover. You could definitely take the balloon out with Witch and then follow it up with a mage, but I don't know that the attack will end up being worth it. Sure enough, that's what Zested does. We see the Witch go in. We see the Mage go in. The dragons are suffering. But maybe Zested should back up now if they move too close to Searing, they could get wiped, but no, they keep going in. Hopefully they can do enough damage to stop Searing from a punishing counterattack. The mage actually suicides into the dragon so that the witch can finish it off. That's actually a really good play. We see the heal go down on the knights, and the knight goes in to finish off the mage. Wolfar heals in the face of the giant. This could be a big move for Zested right now. They're doing a lot of damage on this turn, and their position isn't bad. They've almost recovered economy, too. Searing does have time on the clock right now, and is doing a ton of damage and counterattack, but Zested still had a pretty good turn. And Searing also has to be careful not to lose their commander. There are a lot of witches and grooves and low-health units on the field. We see a ton of damage coming out. The dragon gets healed just a little bit. The mage goes down. Lots of units coming in, and a heal gets dropped. That heal is pretty important because you don't want Valder to die, but there aren't a lot of powerful units that could kill Valder right now. Witch goes in. Could this potentially be an attempt at a lethal? We see clears going on. It definitely looks like Zested wants to attempt a lethal. The mage, unfortunately, didn't die. However, a Witch Hex brings it down. Valder is vulnerable on multiple sides. I don't know if that was the right unit to kill. Maybe you should have killed the dog instead. Or it could be a setup for a pike crit. Beautiful. Beautiful. Can the knight finish Valder? It's a roll. It's not guaranteed. No. Oh, it just wasn't enough. Valder lives with 1% health. So close. So close. Just a little bit luckier and the game could have been won, but I have to say the odds were not in the favor of that last strike. I don't know what the total odds of that whole attack were. Maybe there was a way to make it better, but yeah, unfortunately that last attack, it just didn't connect and the 1% actually made sense probabilistically. Searing is scrambling, they've healed Valder, they've recovered, and the match is just a free-for-all as we come down to 13 minutes left for Zested. Both players are short on time. We see a big hit into that golem as the mage goes in to finish it off. Without the golem, Searing Blight has lost a lot of their threatening potential, and we see their army is starting to fall apart to massive attacks from Zested's units. Searing takes out a mage and is trying to regather their units around the stronghold, taking out villages, and we see Wargoove. Searing Blight has a lot of time in their clock, so they can actually play this a little slower. It's not on them to end the game. Zested will have to end the game, having only 11 minutes left. But Zested is retaking economy, using their balloon correctly now to pick up pikes, and is doing everything they can to regroup and try to remount an attack before they run out of time. Oh, but Zested gets a really savage knight crit, and is just doing so much damage. Zested is unfortunately moving a little bit too quickly, and Searing is able to move just as quickly and take advantage of the blunders. That's a pretty big army at your stronghold. Zested is doing their best to recover, grooving that knight out of the way, and damaging another knight as they kill it. We see big damage coming in, but not too big damage. That's actually all Zested can do. Searing, however, is going to press the attack. Despite being in a winning position, they are choosing to continue to attack Zested and not give them any chance to recover. Searing is actually spending a little bit of their clock on this attack to make sure that it's good. But that might be worth doing, as taking out that witch was a big hit, especially when you're bringing in a dragon. Zested will not only have to play more quickly than Searing, but they'll have to do it while defending their stronghold. An almost impossible task. We see so much beautiful damage coming out from Zested, but ultimately they can't push too far, they just don't have enough units. Dragon comes in, and Searing continues to attack at Zested, pecking away at their defenses, counterattacking, even sending their commander in. A little bit risky under the circumstances, but Zested just doesn't have enough for the kill. We see Zested trying to clear as many units as they possibly can. That attack order was a little fishy. Using their witch as a bodyguard, since there's no anti-air here, and then bringing in the pikes for some extra damage, actually leaving this pike here to create a little bit less surface area. There are still multiple witches. Zested has not given up on the lethal pressure, the anti-air pressure, but both players are just duking it out, and this benefits Searing Blight. Zested has to pull something quickly in order for them to take the game. And Valder just keeps summoning more and more swords, a never-ending army of undead, keeping Zested from being able to move forward. 6 minutes left. Can Zested recover? We see a Witch X come out. It is not going to hit Valder, though. A second Witch X, this one does hit Valder. Ooh, their units just aren't dying. Wulfar, not the mage, but Wulfar is going to go in on the dragon and take it out, and the mage is actually just going to crit Valder for a little bit of threat. Zested has cleared much of the units near their stronghold, but their army is ragtag, and Searing is actually now ignoring the stronghold and just taking gold across the map. It is going to be incredibly difficult for Zested to push into their opponent with just 4 minutes left. But Zested isn't giving up, going very deep with their knights, noticing that their opponent doesn't have a lot over there either, and is rapidly attacking forward. But Searing can still find targets with their own knight, their commander's still there, they still have enough to get rid of these overly eager attackers, and continue to defend their stronghold, which will give them the win unless Zested can pull something off. Zested has just 3 minutes left, and they're just moving as quickly as possible, trying to stop Searing, but Searing is just taking their bases all over the map, trading knights, summoning swords. It's turn 24, and I've lost count of just how many kills we've seen. So many, it's unreal. Seriously. Oh, wow. These players have batted back and forth. I've never seen the turn count go this high, turn 25. And Zested is not giving up. They're continuing to attack into a stream of golems. The golems mean that Zested has to attack right now, because once those golems get there, there will be nothing Zested can do. And Zested is desperately trying to hit the stronghold. But we see a Hex come in, a golem strike, a mage heal. Searing Blight is not going to end it by timeout. They're going for the lethal, and they take out Zested in a beautiful, beautiful victory. Well played. Alright, we're going to go into the next game in just a moment, but let's talk about those two games for a minute. That was pretty incredible. Both players are incredibly good, and definitely masters of this game. But I have to say, when it came down to it, Searing Blight definitely showed more familiarity with the maps. They used their balloons better to pick up their pikes. Their knights were more active, their plays were more dynamic. And I think in Game 1, Zested's Green Finger, unfortunately, just didn't put vines in a very useful location. Searing was always able to attack despite the vines, while getting good value out of their Wargoove. So I think, in terms of using their groove, knowing the maps, playing the maps well, using their army comps well, Searing was the victor and takes it 2-0. Alright, let's go on to now Mvakm versus Disobeyed. Alright, in the bottom left, in red, playing Valder, we have Mvakm. This map, by the way, is known for being completely nuts. There are thieves everywhere, like there are hideouts in the very center of the map, and you have to use a barge to transport half your units. In the top right, in yellow, as Nuru, we have Disobeyed. Now, Nuru is considered weak to Valder. This is because Valder is able to get incredible economy, and Nuru's groove is dependent on economy. Nuru does not play well from behind at all. I would say Mvakm would have a strong advantage in this regard. By the way, we see a wagon being built for Disobeyed. That's going to be pretty useful in transporting their units quickly to the front lines. Whereas there's no wagon for Mvakm. I thought Mvakm was a little more familiar with this map. I remember them being exceptionally good at it in the past, but they don't seem to be using the wagon strat I remember from them. I wonder if that'll weaken them during this match. Both players seem to be favoring a center commander approach, but Disobeyed's wagon is definitely a point of difference, able to get that sword into the center very quickly. This could actually give Nuru the economy she needs and put Valder in a very bad position. Valder goes for a hideout, trying to steal those early villages back from Nuru. We'll see if they're successful. And kind of just massing swords and backing them up with a knight on the right side. Very standard play. Nuru goes in, grabs the hideout, and we see a bunch of swords coming out for Disobeyed as well. The center sword, not afraid of Valder, just capturing that village. and dropping a mage and a sword here to get the villages on the side, which is the same thing Mvakm did. Both players are playing very similarly. So far, the wagon is the only big difference between them. We see Mvakm grabbing a lot of villages, but this sword seems to have gotten somewhere first. Valdr, however, does have Groove because it's the end of turn 5. For those of you who don't know, Valdr is a necromancer, able to summon soldiers, and although they're very weak units, they can be incredibly useful to a skilled player. I don't know how I feel about this wagon. It seems like the sword only really captured one village so far, before a bit of a front switch happened, and Valdr is going to be able to dominate this village. Oh, Mvakm gets a very lucky roll. It was not likely at all that that sword crit would kill that village. It was a bit of a coin flip, but Mvakm did win the coin flip, giving them a big advantage having captured this village. I say Disobeyed might be in a little bit of trouble. We see Mvakm actually built a thief here, and is using a mage to try to back the thief up. But Disobeyed has a lot of swords at the ready, and building a thief and sending in the mage might be a mistake if Disobeyed can successfully defeat the play. Remember, mages and thieves are 400 gold. If losing those units could be very costly. Mvakm is bringing up a knight and capturing villages. Oh, so many villages. If we take a look at the map, Mvakm has the economy lead and has destroyed their opponent's hideout in their territory. Mvakm is currently dominating this game. With so many soldiers, I don't see how Disobeyed can possibly win this. But their thief and mage do look a little bit vulnerable, and that mage unfortunately was not able to kill the sword despite the crit. Disobeyed is bringing in pikes, a little bit slow against these knights. I wonder if they'll be able to get into position in time. But we see the wagon being very useful and bringing the pike into the fray. Big damage comes down. Oh, the thief goes down. That's unfortunate. That thief going down will deal 400 gold worth of damage to Mvakm, and if that mage can't get out, it'll be another 400 gold. It might not have been worth that play. Mvakm might have lost a little bit of gold there. Knight's going in on Nuru as well. The pike actually can't reach it from that position. Oh. I have too many things open. Sorry about that. Yeah, the mage is just going to die for the sword there. Valdr is, however, going to get a sweet, sweet steal over here. However, I do wonder if Valdr could end up getting trapped by that harpy. There's no anti-air. That does look a little bit risky to me. But with a dragon backing it up and double knights, what could go wrong? Sure enough, the harpy goes in. It looks like Valdr might get stuck in that position. You can't walk through an enemy air unit. And with a knight coming in after Valdr, Valdr could be in a bit of trouble. We see Disobeyed is very, very slow to try to get back economy. Their pike play is definitely on the slower side, and using a weak Nuru to attack a knight, that's really risky. But Nuru does have Groove, and Valdr is trapped. Oh, that could have killed, but it looks like Mvakm will not win the coin flip twice today. Valdr deciding to just peace out and retreat, and the thief kind of accepting its fate as being trapped. Mvakm maneuvers around and does big damage to Nuru, but Nuru is not dying this turn. We see a thief coming out ready to steal this village. Mvakm is dominating and has complete control over the economy. With 600 gold plus, Valdr into Nuru, it'll be very, very difficult for them to lose this game. The one health thief steals from the village. Very bold, and we see the harpy, still completely safe from anti-air, finishes it off. Mvakm has lost a lot of thieves, and the tax of losing thieves is starting to catch up. We see that Disobeyed, meanwhile, has been using very efficient attacks, and has been making up the loss of economy in damage to their opponent. The swords finally get rid of this hideout, which could allow Disobeyed to start stealing villages on this side, especially accompanied by the knight. They really need to do that in order to catch up on economy. Dragon goes in, though it is in range of the mage, a little bit dangerous. Could Disobeyed fall here? No, that knight just did not have enough damage. Nuru continues to live, and these knights might be in something of a hazardous position. But the thief grabs the village, and Mvakm continues to get such massive economic control, doing 300 gold damage to their opponent while maintaining a 600 gold lead. That's like a knight a turn. How could Disobeyed possibly recover from this? But Disobeyed is not deterred. They are going to keep trying, moving their pikes forward, doing some big damage to that knight, taking it out. Nuru very much needs to not die, and uses their own knight as a shield. Oh, Harpy takes the knight, which lets the mage hit the dragon! Huge blunder from Mvakm, as Disobeyed is able to heal their commander while destroying Mvakm's attacking force. So much gold damage was done there, even with the 600 gold advantage, Mvakm was sit back with that attack. The counterattack on the mage is very nice. Not enough to make it worth it, but definitely something you want to do. Mvakm is determined to recover from that attack by dealing massive unit count damage to their opponent, and is willing to balloon in some pikes to supplement this attack. It's worth noting that much of Mvakm's army is swords, so although they overwhelm their opponent, Mvakm will need these pikes to deal with the knights and various other units that Nuru has. It seems like Disobeyed is just kind of defending their villages, happily depositing some well-needed gold, and doing everything they can to recover villages that were lost. We'll probably see a thief build here. Yep, a thief was built on the left side. The dragon goes in. That dragon could die. Nuru could die. Nuru is in a little bit of trouble being only at 7 health there, especially with a dragon nearby, but with dragon and wagon protecting Nuru, I don't know if there's enough damage to take her out. Lots of damage is being done. The knight does go down, but Nuru, it seems, is safe for now, with sword crits going in to weaken her, but ultimately Nuru gets to live another day. How many times has Disobeyed survived? Keep in mind, though, none of Mvakm's attacks were lethal threatening. They deal heavy damage, but I don't think there was ever a chance of Nuru dying outright. Mvakm has such a massive army and economy lead, but I'm not seeing them build a lot of big units except that golem. That golem will be the first big unit, and this dragon, yeah, to sort of supplement this attack. The thief goes in, stealing gold from Mvakm, and Disobeyed has a lot of gold as well. If we take a look at the villages, Disobeyed has actually recovered the difference. The Harpy hits the dragon for some big damage, and Disobeyed has now actually climbed ahead on economy. How were they able to do that? Through very good builds, very good positioning, and some massive damage on Mvakm's bigger forces. Too often during this game, Mvakm threw away big, expensive, powerful units for attacks that just did not do enough damage. And Disobeyed was able to very carefully claw it back, recover the economy they needed. Mvakm is now in an even position against an even opponent. Nuru is now actually in a position where they have the advantage. This is because Valdr is actually losing if they're even. Valdr needs to be ahead. Valdr's groove is all about getting ahead and staying there. If Valdr can't do something to regain the lead, we might see Mvakm start to slip in their assault against Nuru. We see the thief, that one health thief, doing so much work. Disobeyed, taking down yet another village just with swords. That Harpy has been amazing for them this game. Normally Harpies are very weak units, but very good players can use them to great effect. We see the 5 sword taking down the 2 sword and recapturing this village as well. From the front even. Very aggressive. Disobeyed is marching against Mvakm wherever they can, and retreating where they're strong, giving Mvakm no room to attack as Disobeyed takes the lead in this game. However, Mvakm still has the golem and has built another golem. If Mvakm can hold out until their golems reach the field, they might be able to turn this back around to their favor. Mvakm, however, does not look like they want to retreat. They are pushing forward, despite not having knights, or anything that could threaten commanders or strongholds. They just have a lot of pikes, but they're pushing forward nonetheless. These mages are going to be a little bit overloaded, because there's a lot of air that these mages have to cover. And we see Disobeyed is happy to fight. They are throwing their units into Valdr, doing tons of damage. Valdr is looking a little bit worrisome right now. Mage crit, Dragon Strike, Valder is outright dead. Mvakm overextended and was taken out by Disobeyed. We talk about superpowers a lot. Mvakm's superpower is definitely getting lots of villages, but one of their weaknesses is losing their commander. Disobeyed's superpower is probably bringing an early disadvantage back to even. I've seen them do that so many times. They're very good at taking a losing position and bringing it back to an even position. And they were able to win off that in this game. Let's check out Game 2 between Mvakm and Disobeyed. I've got to say in that game, Mvakm was dominating, but they were just not able to use their winning position to take victory over their opponent. Alright, Game 2, on the same map. In the red, we have Mvakm playing Wolfar this time. Still no wagon. I don't know about that. And in the teal, we have Disobeyed playing Valder. You know, I'm in this tournament. Maybe I should stop screaming build a wagon from the top of my lungs, but that's okay. Like, I'm a commentator first. I must tell everybody the good strats. This is why everybody knows my strats. Alright, so Disobeyed is playing Valder this time. Valder worked out really well for Mvakm, and Disobeyed was like, okay, well, if you can do Valder, I can do Valder. And Mvakm is like, well, I couldn't kill you last game when I had the lead, so let me play a commander who can do that. Both players are trying to learn from last game and take the advantage. Ultimately, though, I do have to say that there's a rule in this tournament that you're not allowed to pick a map that you previously won on. This means that Mvakm, who lost the last round, chose to fight on this map again. It's a very risky thing to do, to pick a map that you lost on previously as the map to fight on. First of all, this lets your opponent choose their position, so like if the map favors player 1 or player 2, they could pick that role. Disobeyed got to pick player 2, a position that apparently they're very comfortable with on this map. Additionally, you already know your opponent knows the map well and can beat you on it, so Mvakm must have been really, really confident in their skills in this map to choose it for their second game. We'll see if that confidence is warranted against Disobeyed. Disobeyed, meanwhile, is doing pretty much the same thing, just building swords, going forward with their commander. I don't see a lot different happening. Oh, but here's something different. Mvakm elected to build a balloon this time, and balloon swords into the center, making up for their lack of wagon. Very clever, and that'll give them a powerful position against Valder. Mvakm this time controls the center with the early sword, not Disobeyed. If we take a look at the economy, though, it's pretty even. Both players trading well, Valder happily retreats and gets Groove at the end of turn 5. And we see Mvakm beautifully going for sword crit into steel. That thief can actually deposit in one turn, unless it dies to Valder's Groove. Mvakm has a history of losing thieves to Disobeyed. We'll see if that trend continues. Beautiful mage strike from Disobeyed, killing a sword and then backing it up with a thief build. Additionally, Valder immediately builds a sword, but does not go for the thief. They choose instead to kill the sword. The thief will be allowed to deposit, and Mvakm will get a lot of gold out of that. But I want to show you the bottom left as soon as I can, because Disobeyed's mage strike killing a sword is huge. Remember last game where Mvakm, built that thief and mage and it didn't work out? Disobeyed is doing a much better version in the bottom right. Wolfar seems to be winning this fight. Mvakm has a lot of money from that thief deposit, but there's no answer to this knight on the left side. Meanwhile, if you can see here on the right, this thief of Disobeyed is going to have near free reign. Mvakm was forced to build a dragon to try to counter it. Valder takes out the hideout, and the thief takes a village. Even with that dragon, it's not going to make it in time to stop this. Valder actually just attacks into Wolfar and uses a thief of their own to take this village. Revenge thief, bringing in the wagon to take the thief back sooner. Very good play. We see the knife come in and take another village, the main come in and heal off of the hideout, and the sword come in and damage this sword. The mage will actually threaten the dragon off, protecting the thief, and Disobeyed has actually stolen the bottom right corner of the map. incredible. The dragon had no choice but to go center, leaving the thief almost unannoyed, aside from that one little sword. Mvakm is dropping swords on the left side of the map, but I don't know what those swords are supposed to do against this knight. Wolfar grooves the sword, but Wolfar's only at 5 health. Wolfar has to be a little careful not to die in this position. We see a sword actually attacking Valder. And now Valder has groove. I don't know about this. Disobeyed, sure enough, gets their thief where it needs to be, and Valder retreats to summon a sword. The sword goes in and murders that thief. Mvakm is just not as good with the thieves. We see, meanwhile, Disobeyed's thief deposits some money, and it looks like they're ready for another steal. Well, their swords are attacking villages. They didn't get the roll there, maybe, but they're probably going to take it out soon. The knight takes yet another village. Disobeyed doesn't even need this hideout. They have such epic control of this map. If we take a look at the overview here, it's the opposite of last game. We have Disobeyed in complete control of this map, and they've killed so much of Mvakm's forces. The dragon goes in, and the thief goes down. Mvakm gets to kill a thief, finally, and uses a mage heal on Wolfar to try to do some damage to maybe get groove off of this village. The village goes down, and Mvakm is working their way towards groove again. But I don't know what these swords are going to do to that knight. So Mvakm builds a pike to help them. Sure enough, the thief goes in and steals yet another village. Disobeyed is destroying with that thief. But they have to be a little bit careful. Mvakm is threatening their stronghold here. I see a knight, I see a dragon, I see a Wolfar, I see a lot of swords. So Disobeyed is setting up their units to protect the stronghold. Meanwhile, this knight continues to wreak havoc, and Disobeyed is taking over the map. Mvakm choosing not to attack the stronghold, but to just slowly push forward. I don't know about that. I don't know if taking that one village was worth this attack. They're turtling in around this pike, just trying to keep everybody safe. Going in with the knight, just trying to recover territory against this thief that continues to trouble them. Disobeyed gets another deposit and has 2,000 gold. Oh, such gold. They get a night crit on Wolfar just because, and end up building a massive force threatening Wolfar. Wolfar might have to retreat pretty soon or face execution. The mage shield goes down on the thief, interestingly enough. Sure enough, Mvakm has to retreat here. Not much of a choice, and Wolfar actually goes in the balloon to retreat, meaning they won't be able to heal this turn, setting Wolfar back even further. The dragon runs away from the witch, and Mvakm is pushed back. Not the position you want to be in while your opponent is winning. Beautiful night strike on the mage, and the mage goes in to finish it off. That thief might not be taking any more villages, but it did make 2 successful steals, take a ton of villages away from Mvakm, and force those knights to go over there. It's going to steal again, taking out another village so that even if it dies, it'll still have done 100 gold more. Oh, it's just such beautiful shenanigans from Disobeyed's thieves. Disobeyed is really showing proper play in this match. They're bringing down Valder and their power, and Wolfar is threatened off and forced to kind of just turtle there. We see the thief finally goes down, returning some well-needed gold to Mvakm, and they're using their own knights to try to retake all the territory over here, but they just don't have enough units to recapture them quickly enough. Mvakm is struggling to hold on, and Wolfar is forced back again, just trying to turtle, rotate, find some kind of leverage against their opponent, but Disobeyed remains in a crushing lead on this game. Disobeyed continues to take villages, and it is merciless. In a back-and-forth situation like this, the player who is ahead Disobeyed will definitely have the advantage. Mvakm needs to make something happen, and still can't flip this darn hideout! They are able to flip this village, though. Really beautiful sword play on the left, despite the fact that the village was heavily defended. We see Mvakm bringing mages and knights right in Valder's face, threatening double sword knight crit on the stronghold. If Disobeyed plays this incorrectly, they could lose the game right here. Disobeyed attacks into the swords, but actually brings their knights to threaten Mvakm's own stronghold. I don't know if Mvakm will be able to make it in time. Disobeyed bringing their giant across for some damage, and moving around their own stronghold to defend it from this double knight strike. With wagon, sword, and thief and mage defending, it looks like the attack has been thwarted, and now Mvakm will have to move backwards to defend their own base. Dragon goes in, beautiful find, beautiful hit, but is it really okay to dedicate so many units to this attack while your stronghold is under threat of death? I don't know, Mvakm. Do you know what you're doing, Mvakm? Are you okay, Mvakm? We see the pikes get ballooned back to defend the stronghold, and we'll see if it's enough. It's backed up by a mage and a few swords. And Mvakm brings another mage in striking range. This looks like a pretty good defense after all. Mvakm should be solid as long as they stay alive. The balloon goes down, and there's a lot of power threatening Wolfar right now. We see a knight crit get behind Wolfar. Oh, did you hear that whinny? That was a devastating whinny of death. Slight misplay there. The dog should have hit the pike, but still, this is probably lethal either way. Knight crit goes in. Thief, probably just stealing that for the lulz. Disobeyed, are you BMing? Thief, probably just stealing that for the lulz. And the dragon goes in, and Disobeyed showing that they are the master of this map. Well played, Disobeyed. And 2-0, Disobeyed moves on, taking out Mvakm. Not the result I expected, but definitely well played. Mvakm dominated economy in the first game, but Disobeyed was able to equalize and make better trades, giving them the game. In the second game, it looked like Disobeyed just had it from the off. They had a better opening, better villages, they made up for their mistakes of the first game, and then just closed it out. Well played, Disobeyed. Alright, let's take a look at that bracket again, and I super duper duper promise that I will not leave it up this time. So it looks like Zested will not be going on. Searing Blight will be going on to face Zeronix. The Sneaky Dragon will be moving on. Wall DC'd. DQ'd. They had a IRL thing. Mvakm versus Disobeyed. Disobeyed will be going on to fight me in the next round. And one more match set. Let's look at Mastro versus Mr. Cat. For those of you on stream, I am doing all the matches. I'm just saying that for the YouTube video. Alright, Mastro versus Mr. Cat. Now, for those of you who don't know, Mastro is one of my personal favorites to win the whole tournament. They were second place last time, and the map pool, I think, heavily suits them. It's a lot of maps they're very familiar with. Mr. Cat is Mr. Cat is kind of like a folk hero of Wargoove. They're a casual player, but they still qualify for and compete in the world tournaments. So definitely the underdog, but definitely someone to root for. Let's check him out. And in game one, playing Emmerich, Master of the Crystals, we have Mastro. And in the orange, playing the twins, I love the twins, we have Mr. Cat. See what I mean? Total folk hero. The twins are rarely played in Wargroove. They have really one strategy, that is to put fire near your opponent's stronghold and take it out. Unfortunately, this strategy is a lot harder to do than it sounds. There are a lot of ways to stop it, counter it, defeat it, or make it not even possible to happen in the first place. For this reason, the twins, even on maps that they can play on, are not considered very good, but props to Mr. Cat for giving it a try. Mastro, on the other hand, in the green, playing Emmerich. Emmerich is known for very, very mechanical play with lots of small units that lead you to victory. Emmerich is considered one of the more difficult commanders, but definitely powerful in the hands of a master. I think Sequoia is currently recognized as the best existing Emmerich player, but I haven't seen Mastro play Emmerich before, and as probably Sequoia's rival in this tournament, we'll see how they do. The twins, by the way, I love them so much. They're just, like, adorable, and their groove is crazy, and they're so cute. I am definitely an Errol, not an Orla. Those who know Wargroove understand what I'm talking about. I am 100% an Errol. Orla's like, I want to set the world on fire. Errol's like, let's think about this. My stream personality might be more Orla, but real life, I'm Errol. And we see Mr. Cat attacking into Emmerich with the Knight and attacking their village with the Twins, trying to farm up that groove as quickly as possible and maybe get at that sweet, sweet HQ. Ultimately, though, they seem to be in a bit of trouble, as Emmerich just heals up and has plenty of units to answer their attack, bringing more knights to the night fight. We see Maestro goes double mages, a very good strategy for threatening off air units like this Harpy. Additionally, Mr. Cat has not taken one of their own internal villages yet. A bit of a blunder, you really want to have this captured, because it's kind of like a village that's guaranteed to you. Mr. Cat also retreats and mage heals and builds up a pike. I don't really know if a pike is something the Twins want. The Twins want more fast units like knights. Meanwhile, Maestro is wasting no time to take advantage. They put up the crystal, which will give a massive defense bonus to everybody in the crystal's radius. The crystal can be attacked and destroyed, but you're going to have to get past these very defensive units to do it. Big damage coming in on Maestro's knights. But will it be enough to stop this golem that is soon to appear? Mr. Cat, meanwhile, continues to run away from their own barracks, threatened off by this crystal and Emmerich's amazing knight power. We see the Harpy goes down to a mage, a bit of a misplay by Mr. Cat, allowing Maestro to take advantage of it by kind of just moving forward with their army. Maestro is rapidly taking the center of the map and is actually just pushing through Mr. Cat. But finally we see Mr. Cat decides to attack, throwing forth their pikes to do some damage, and nope, retreating with the knight. Mr. Cat recaptures the village using swords and has backed it up with a dragon, a very good answer to deal with this golem. But their commander continues to just run away every single turn, and I'm worried that that might be giving Maestro a bit too much ground. Ooh! Beautiful mage crit on that pike. Beautiful mage crit. We see Emmerich go in on the pike, following up with a sword crit and then capturing this village. Great damage. Maestro is so close to Mr. Cat's barracks. The golem goes in and is backed up by village taking knights. It seems like the golem is not afraid at all of this dragon. There is a lot of flagstone here, and a mage is built to defend the golem in the near future. Mr. Cat builds units behind the barracks, and is slowly approaching Mvakm's forces with their commander and various other units. They seem to be going all out in the bottom, trying to maybe revenge attack Maestro's barracks. However, Maestro's golem is not to be underestimated. It frees the knight, allowing it to do some damage, and getting a mage crit on Mr. Cat's dragon. Oh, and Mr. Cat's knight gets knight crit. Oh, Mr. Cat is losing units left and right. Maestro is beautifully finding holes in Mr. Cat's defenses, and taking out their various units in short order. Definitely showing why they're one of the favorites in this tournament. Mr. Cat continues to go backwards with their commander, and on turn 10 the Twins seem to have groove. We see a thief go in right in front of the enemy, being defended though by this wagon. Maestro takes the enemy's barracks. That'll allow them to produce units right in the enemy's face. A very powerful advantage. The knight comes in, the golem destroys that thief, and Mr. Cat's units are being destroyed. There's not a lot I can say about this, other than we love Mr. Cat, and Mr. Cat is an amazing player and an inspiration to all casual players for appearing in a competitive tournament, for qualifying for the tournament and fighting in it, and just showing up to have fun and have a good time. I super respect their entire aesthetic, and they're awesome. How Maestro, however, is very, very good at this game, and is pushing forward, destroying every single possible village in their path, playing as optimally as humanly possible, and sparing no effort to do as much damage as possible and immediately threaten the enemy base. Mr. Cat surrenders, being in a completely crushing position, and the winner goes to Maestro. Okay, so yeah, you know, I love Mr. Cat, and very much appreciate them, and for playing the twins. That was definitely a one-sided match, but Maestro is a very good player, second in the last tournament, and as I said before, they're very familiar with the maps in this tournament. I wouldn't be surprised if they go on to win the whole thing. Let's watch game 2. Ooh, Ouroboros. This is one of the most difficult maps in the tournament, second only to In Memoriam, and a map that Maestro is very familiar with. In the bottom right, we have Mr. Cat playing Elodie. Elodie is a very popular commander in the current meta. Despite long having been thought to be weak, most players respect Elodie as being one of the stronger commanders now, thanks to the current Golem meta and her ability to base rush. Elodie's strategies generally want you to be as aggressive as possible. Maestro in the green on the left side is playing Sedge, a commander who's very slow to get started, but with very clever positioning. Sedge can be incredibly powerful, as we might see in this very match. We just might. It's possible. I see a lot of trolls in chat saying that Ouroboros is the easiest map in the pool. Oh, of course. That troll is Maestro. Right, yes. Maestro moves in, doing tremendous damage to their opponent. Getting a very early hit with Sedge, who's already in enemy territory. Elodie decides that Elodie wants to be in enemy territory too, and dives into this middle village, although is unable to take it down. We see Mr. Cat is readying a knight against Sedge. No, brings the knight to the center of the map to help Elodie. Maestro has a ton of gold very early on, and is using all of their power to back up Sedge's incredible assault against these villages and get an early economic advantage against Mr. Cat. Mr. Cat finally takes out the village with Elodie, having some very good GoW for their troubles, and brings in the knight to back up this attack. Looks like Mr. Cat wants to end the game quickly, but without a mage, I don't know how Mr. Cat will be able to attack into this tower, which builds air units. Maestro is gathering 100 gold swords to defend against Elodie's attack, and builds a dragon to back them up. Without any anti-air, Elodie will immediately die if she steps forward. Sure enough, Elodie retreats. And Mr. Cat is forced to kind of turtle around here and try to build up their forces until this mage can catch up. We see Mr. Cat rallying their swords, building another mage and some defensive pikes. If we take a quick look at the economy, we'll see it's a little bit even, although Maestro is slowly growing a powerful lead, sneaking behind their defenses with dragons and knights. And Sedge is at 80% GoW, which means that Sedge will have GoW in just a few turns. Maestro, oh my goodness, Maestro has 5 swords, 2 knights, and a dragon facing down the enemy forces. Mr. Cat decides to fight a little bit further away from that and backs up just a bit. Beautiful positioning here. If you take a look at this positioning, it is very difficult to attack this with the dragon, the knights, the mage, Elodie and the dragon protecting the mage. Really great formation by Mr. Cat. Maestro is just happily taking villages unopposed at the top of the map. These pikes can't really do much against this. This is bold. Sedge is greedily moving into enemy territory and uses the dragon to finish off the village. Apparently not very worried about Elodie, but respecting Mr. Cat's amazing formation, Maestro backs off a little bit here. Mr. Cat just kind of shuffles units around. It seems like they can't move forward either, and they're repositioning to get a solid position on Maestro. Unfortunately, they're just kind of shuffling units around, and Maestro continues to have a very strong village lead. Mr. Cat will have to move forward if they want to win this game. Hopefully that golem they just built will help them do that. Maestro has an incredible amount of gold and is dominating. Sedge does retreat a little bit, backing up to safer territory. But Maestro can afford to shuffle their units around. They are in the lead and there is no pressure on them to attack right now. Putting an archer behind their formation, making it even more powerful and more difficult for Elodie to attack, as Maestro inches forward, ever closer. Elodie doing some big damage and getting Groove. Elodie's Groove allows her to claim the heart of another unit, stealing it for your team. This makes her incredibly scary. I mean, do you want to spend 1,250 gold on a dragon and then give it to your opponent? I don't. I sure don't. Big attack, all in for Mr. Cat. Every single unit is moving forward, trying to deal as much damage as possible and take down Mastro's stronghold. How can Mastro possibly respond to this attack? Boom, Night Crit goes in. Boom, Night Hit goes in. That sword was on beach, so it was able to be killed. Boom, Mage Hit goes in. Archer takes a sword. We see swords and Pike taking a village. Not even capturing the village for now. Okay, capturing it. Maestro's moving their other units in. Knight takes a dog. Sword hits the mage. The dragon retreats and, destroys that golem. There's no anti-air near the golem. The witch hexes, and we see a sword just stand in front of Elodie to prevent her from stealing the witch. It will be incredibly difficult for Mr. Cat to get anything out of this. Their perfect attack has turned into a perfect disaster, as Maestro brilliantly breaks their formation. Mr. Cat is facing down an army. Their dragon is weak and has to retreat. Beautiful dog crit on that mage, responding with big hits on the knights. And the knight goes down. And Elodie steals one of Mastro's knights. Great play. And sends it into the opposing army. I'm not sure if I like that move. Mastro may have wanted to retreat those units in the south, as Mastro is still very strong there. I don't know if Mr. Cat should have kept the units in the south where they were. That was possibly a blunder. We'll see what Mastro does in response. Sword crit to take out the dog, and Pike to take out the sword. Mastro seems to be just doing tons of damage with anything and everything they can find. Unfortunately, almost every single one of Mr. Cat's units can be attacked by Mastro during this turn. Oh, so much damage is happening. We see a suicide on Elodie. Could this be a lethal? And there it is, Sedge's Groove. Sedge's Groove allows Sedge to kill a unit for free and act again, while still having Groove. The only catch is the unit must be below 36 health, so 35 health and below. I believe. Ooh, Knight goes in. The dragon kills a knight. Sedge kills a dog. There's so much damage happening, and in the blink of an eye, Mr. Cat has lost pretty much their entire army. I don't know how Mr. Cat can possibly recover from this devastating attack, but they deal big damage to a dragon anyway. Pike crits go in. Mr. Cat is determined to clean up these small, weaker units left over from that Alpha Strike. A bit of a retreat for Mr. Cat, though leaving some units in the range of Mastro. Mastro taking down villages as they press forward, and not afraid to use Sedge to pick off weak units, allowing Mastro to get insane value from their attacks. The sword goes in, didn't finish the mage, no problem. We can turn that unlucky roll into a lucky roll as Sedge gets to kill and act again. Using it as a spring, Sedge bounces to kill yet another Pike. And the Golem, weakening that knight enough for Sedge to hungrily kill another unit. How much damage can one Sedge do? Beautiful knight crit that enables Sedge to go in even deeper. Mastro is actually running their own clock down to 21 minutes, but completely destroying their opponent. We see the dragon, too, will fall prey to Sedge. So much damage. Oh, the flora and manatee. And the knight, of course. Gotta eat that. Gotta eat that. We can't leave without eating the knight. Dog goes in to damage the mage. Oh, it's too healthy for Sedge to groove. Better witch exit. Yep, fixed that. Now Sedge can groove it and continue the slaughter. Using the balloon to trap Elodie, Sedge finishes off the dog, and this looks like it just might be over for Mr. Cat. There's the surrender. Well played. A beautiful game. I have to say, Mr. Cat definitely did better this game, but they were just no match for the incredible onslaught of Mastro Sedge. Alright, that's it for this video. In the next video, we'll cover the rest of round 1.